And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of You Get What You Get. I'm Rick Hampton, along with my co-host Tree McDougal and Tim Turner, coming to you on a Tuesday evening. Hope everybody's having a great day. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Tim and Tree, we got a special guest to start us off. I happen to know this young lady pretty well because she happens to be my wife. Dr. Rebecca Motley Hampton. And sweetheart, it is always a pleasure to see you, of course. Uh, and welcome to the show. It's kind of unfortunate that we have to have you on as our opening guest tonight after hearing the news about Bronny James, the 18-year-old son of NBA legend LeBron James. And it was reported that uh, Bronny had a cardiac arrest. Uh, and to our viewers out there, welcome to the show. And could you explain to Tim, Tree, and I and our viewers some of the specifics when things like that occur in young people?
Well, thank you for having me on this evening. I'm going to preface by doing a disclosure and pointing out that I'm not a cardiologist, I'm an internist. But this, I'm not sure what you mean by the specifics of something like this. We don't have that much information regarding this particular incident. So we are pretty clear that he was at least unconscious. We don't know if his heart stopped or if he lost pulse, which in cardiology is a pretty big distinction. Um, we don't know how long the episode lasted or if they had to intervene by shocking his heart in order to get it started again. So, given the limited knowledge of what we have with this particular instance, um, the most likely cause seems probably is an irregular heart rhythm. And that is probably one of the more common causes in young people his age of this type of episode.
Tree.
Yeah. Do you think that? I think I heard earlier. It seems to be perhaps there could be more common with athletes now. Thinking about Mr. Hamlin, um, football player. Do we see this more often, or you think we'll see it more often with the younger athletes?
I would say that it probably happens more often than we're really aware of. But the instance with Mr. Hamlin and the instance with Bronny are very, very different. Mr. Hamlin had trauma to his chest. He was hit,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And that caused, in a perfectly normal, healthy heart, it caused an electrical misperformance, okay, that caused his heart to stop. All right. And they did shock him
Mm-hmm.
to get his heart to go back to its regular rhythm. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a very different occurrence. And that could happen to just anybody who gets a solid blow like that to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with Bronny, yeah, we are seeing, I think, an increased incidence of children that have irregular heartbeats. And it may be related to some of the things that they interact with, some of the things that they eat, um, some of the other things that they may be doing. I would assume that something is already going on with Bronny because we know from the reporting that he had an echo 2 months ago. And echoes are not really a routine performance evaluation for people in his age group.
Mm-hmm.
So that would suggest to me or hint to me that maybe there was something that they know has been going on that they were trying to evaluate.
No, he's inordinately tall. He's like 6'3". But I think of
Hmm.
people who have like with Marfan syndrome, that kind of
Hmm.
deal. Where I think maybe it was a Hank Gathers thing. Was it with Reggie Lewis? I don't know if these are the same type incidences where you had these really tall people. I'm trying to think of the volleyball player from days gone by that all had issues Marfans, and they were tall people, and they were undetected heart issues. Could it be anything like that?
Mhm. Marfan's actually causes um, dissections of the aorta. Okay, so the major vessel that comes off of your heart that transfers all the blood to everywhere in your body. Okay, it kind of splits. It develops a split in the actual wall of it, and the part that's splitting becomes very weak and it can rupture. Okay, so Marfan's is by virtue of their genetic tissue makeup a very unique kind of condition that occurs, and in that case, that's extraordinarily life threatening. Okay, arrhythmias are not as life threatening as something like Marfan's, and 6'3" is not really that tall. The I think the average Marfan's person is usually more in the 6'5" range, 6'7" range, pretty tall. I've had several of them myself, patients over the years. They're usually remark. Before you even notice that, have you ever known anybody who can bend their fingers all the way back to
Yeah.
their wrist?
Yeah.
We're all
When
like,
you were
no.
kids, did you guys?
Ow.
No. Okay,
No.
so they have
Heard
lots of
of it
other
now.
signs that tell you that they have this condition in their tissues.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hey, Kathy,
Ability of their joints, they're oftentimes what we would call the double jointed. Yes.
Mhm.
Kathy, do you know? I see PSA announcements now. Get your kids checked for get your kids' heart checked before the start of football season, or what are they looking for uh, when they're checking these young athletes? Like you said, Bronny's 18 years old. What are they looking for? Arrhythmias, or heart murmurs, or
Okay, so when we evaluate the heart on several different levels. When you get the thing where they put all those wires on your chest, and I think probably at our age everybody's had one called an EKG, electrocardiogram. Okay, that's actually looking at the electrical function of the heart. It's not looking at the structure of the heart. Okay, but when you have something called an echo, which is an ultrasound of the heart, that's more looking at the structure and function, that we're actually able to see the blood as it moves through each chamber and get an idea of if there's any impedance to the flow of the blood going through the heart. And then there's the cardiac catheterizations, which at our age we're all dreading, right? That's taking a whole nother look, because now it's looking at the blood vessels that are feeding the heart, and it's answering the question, how well are the blood vessels feeding the heart? Okay. Kids, actually, there are probably over 100 congenital cardiac conditions. In other words, conditions, abnormalities that children's hearts can have. So it's always, from the time your child's born, it's always a good idea to have someone mindful of looking at for the conditions. And only some of the conditions show up in the young baby heart, in the infant heart, in the toddler heart. Okay. Some of the conditions aren't as obvious until the kids get older and bigger, and the heart has to grow and start feeding more body. So it should be something that you want to have checked quite regularly for your child.
when,
Um, but I think the biggest mistake I would say that people make is not understanding what the different parts of healthcare can and cannot do for you. Okay. So when I was practicing emergency medicine, which I practiced for 20 years, we'd have mothers who bring their kids at the last minute to the emergency room, and they want a physical for sports that are starting Monday or tomorrow, or, impending.
yeah,
The problem with that is that the evaluation in the emergency room is limited. Okay. So even if I were to do that evaluation on a non-emergency basis at an urgent care or in an emergency room, I am not fully evaluating the heart. I'm looking for an immediate problem that needs to be addressed now. Okay. So that is not the, what happens, I think, with a lot of kids is their parents get the expedient care, they don't get the appropriate care. Children should have a pediatrician. That pediatrician's always screening them and looking at all their organs. And when they see a problem with their heart, they'll send them to a pediatric cardiologist, someone who
Yeah.
specializes in the hearts of children, because the heart over the decades, that the 2 decades that you go from being born to being an adult, it changes pretty substantially.
Hey, Kathy, when Damar Hamlin got hurt and that whole
Hmm.
thing went down, you told me don't be surprised if this guy is back with the team soon. And when that happened, you were not surprised. And I know again this is early on with Bronny James, but do, do you think he's going to be able to play down the road more basketball?
Once again, we're not really sure what happened with Bronny, but from what we do know, and I'm going to specify, we know that he had an incident. We believe that he lost consciousness. We know that medical care was immediately there. We know he was taken and placed in an ICU, and he was only held there for about 20, less than 48 hours. Okay, so those being the known facts, okay, all those things are really good. They um, pretend pretty well for him playing, going back to playing basketball. Arrhythmias are controllable with different medications. So they're generally controllable, and when they're not controllable, when there's a substantial tissue in the electrical system that's abnormal, we can ablate it. We can actually go in and kill that area that's causing the abnormality. So there's lots of different options when your heart's just beating irregularly. Now, if your heart's beating irregularly because of structural malfunction, okay, then we start getting into other issues like surgeries and things like that to correct it. But other than that, we're pretty well equipped to handle just a simple arrhythmia. So if that's what it is, and that sounds like what it was, because we also know he had an echo 2 months ago, and that echo was apparently okay to put him on the basketball court, which kind of rules out um, cardiomyopathies or a congenital vessel abnormality, okay, then we should be pretty good. He should be pretty good. Plus, that, I mean, the other factor is that he's probably going to get the best care on earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I know we have you on to talk about heart issues, but you brought up about these physicals that athletes take, and it's that time of year where everybody's streaming in to take physicals just before football season, and it's that time of year every year some kid dies somewhere from heat exhaustion or dehydration or some sort of thing like that. Um, is there any way now, before any of that could be preventative, that people can do to try to mitigate those type of issues from happening? Because it seems like that too is happening more frequently, and it's hotter outside this year than it's ever been.
So I would start with kind of going back to what I said before, and that is parents have to understand the limitations of the venue to which they present the child to be evaluated. Okay. So you take the child to an urgent care, and urgent care is really for sewing cuts and finding fractures, and it's not even for really even necessarily treating the fracture. They're not there to really do the kind of evaluation you want for your child, or I would want for my child, before I put him on a team of people running at him and pushing him down. Okay. There's a lot more I want to know about my kid's body before I'm going to subject them to that. I want him at a pediatrician, preferably someone who already knows him. Okay. The knowledge that a pediatrician can have of your child from the time they were born until that day is invaluable. So just taking him to anybody who'll sign the paper is not what you
That
really want
happens.
if you're
Yeah.
really looking to get that kid safely on the field. Okay. That's number one. Number two, you need to make sure that the pediatrician understands that you're willing to go to a specialist if necessary to make sure. You want to be sure. I don't want you to guess. I don't want you to suppose. I don't, let's be sure of anything that you see that's suspicious. Okay. Because one of the biggest problems that we see is with kids that are seen appropriately by their pediatrician is that it's written in the notes that this is a little suspicious and we're going to follow up on it, right? But they clear them to play the sport. And if it was my child, I would rather we go through the evaluation, clear them later. Okay? You can't undo some things that can happen to a kid.
And,
From the coach's standpoint, there was something I ran across not too long ago that talked about the disparity. There is a racial disparity in the number of instances of children having climate related injuries in training and in sports camps. Okay. So we kind of come back to the same thing that we're dealing with Black women and pregnancy, with Black men and pain, and that is that for some reason, even people of our own race do not respond to our discomfort appropriately. Okay. So coaches who have a tendency to say, buck up, run another lap, you'll be okay. That's just not acceptable anymore. We just know too much. We have too much science, and you just got to take the kid's word for it. If he thinks he's too short of breath, if he thinks he's dizzy, if he thinks he's having chest pain, you just got to, you just got to trust the kid, give him the benefit of the doubt, and get him some help. And that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tree.
So if someone, like on a sports team, or I'm sure, like at a university, they have defibrillators. What advice would you give to individuals who may not have access to that?
An auto defibrillator.
Yeah, either that or I would assume you probably think they should learn CPR. But can you talk a little bit about that? What's the most important thing someone should do if someone were to have an episode where their heart stopped?
Okay, so the first thing that I would suggest for a sports team is this. A lot of coaches seem to believe that their responsibility is only to get a trainer on the field, right? Well, my team has a trainer. I was waiting for the trainer, right? Every adult out there should be able to do CPR. Okay. CPR is done to wait for the trainer. That's what you do while you're waiting for the trainer to get there. And I think if you look on the internet and look at most of these episodes, you're going to see a lot of people sort of more or less not interceding because they're kind of waiting or making space or getting ready for the trainer. So everybody should be able to do CPR. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. Is it going to save the life of children that have cardiac issues? Probably a relatively higher than you would think percentage. I would say greater than 50% of the time. If the heart is stopped beating and you do CPR, you can probably give them a shot at getting a rhythm back. Okay. Now, for other kinds of problems, things like dehydration, super cold, drowning incidents, all the other different kinds of things that we're hearing, those are kind of preventable by having really well rehearsed safety measures at each each phase of the activity.
that's what saved Damar. They had that whole thing planned out, even the route to the hospital, Kathy.
Well, yeah, but they don't invest $50 million in all these kids in high school. So
Yeah, true.
yeah, so they're gonna maximally invest in those guys because they've invested a lot of money in them. Okay. But the other part of it is that Hamlin was a grown man. You notice that the little boys who get the same kind of blow to their chest with a softball or with a baseball, they die. Okay. So one of the reasons why he came through it, not only because the equipment was right there and they could shock him right away, but because this man is in maximal good shape. You know, he had everything physically going for him to make it through it. His heart is as strong a muscle as it's gonna get. He's running up and down the field all day, every day. So he was in maximal good shape. Most children, most people think that children's physical shape is sort of natural, right? They're a kid, right? They're in good shape. They run up and down the street and they play, and that's just not true. Such a high percentage of our children are not physically fit. They are not physically fit. Okay? They certainly are not comparing with the level, degree of physical fitness of a pro football player. So when they get hit with that softball in the chest and their heart goes out of electrical sync, their heart's going to have a harder time coming back.
And Kathy, we're going to have to let you go, and we really appreciate
Thank you.
you coming on tonight. But we got to have you back at some point, because I've had this conversation with you about the racial disparities that take place in healthcare. And in like 30 seconds, can you kind of give us a preview of that conversation, of what you see as a physician of, you've been practicing
Just as a teaser, okay? I have a friend. He is a transplant surgeon, okay? And he did his research in renal transplant. When he came to the state of Michigan to head the department of, or to work in the Department of Transplant Medicine at Detroit Medical Center, what he was able to demonstrate to the state of Michigan was that African Americans were not even being told that they needed a transplant or that they were eligible for a transplant or that the state would pay for a transplanted kidney. Okay, they weren't even being told. They weren't being given the option. They weren't being given the opportunity to refuse to do it. Okay? And it was so dramatic and so well demonstrated when he got through that the state, actually the country, passed a law that said for those people in the state of Michigan, when African Americans came forward and were identified as being subjects for transplant, they automatically bumped them to the front of the line based on when they should have been told. Okay? When their medical record shows they should have been told that they should have been eligible. Because otherwise, just by delaying, you can delay them out of the opportunity. Okay? So that's just one little teensy weensy instance.
Yeah.
Okay, and it happens every day. But most importantly, Black women die left and right because they just don't believe us when we say we hurt.
I've heard that.
We're going to definitely get you back on that, Kathy, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
The greatest doctor in the history of the world, Rebecca Motley Hampton. Thank you, Kathy. We appreciate you, darling.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Okay, love you too.
Right.
Bye.
That's a scary thought about not being known about, being told about you're eligible for a transplant.
I've heard I literally heard some horror stories from her about that very topic. And that's something we can definitely explore down the road. But I just hope that young man, number one, whether he ever plays another game of basketball or not, gets to go on and live his life. Hopefully play basketball. But man, that could have been a tragic situation.
Mhm. Do you think that, so, let's say he's, hopefully fine, that will impact his ability to, I mean, even if he starts to play college, he gets back, he wants to go to the pros, will they be looking at him differently because of this heart episode?
Yeah.
I just think that as long as he has that last name, they won't look at him any differently.
Yeah. He's gonna,
Beyond, they'll
Yeah.
think because of he has that last name, that it imbues some sort of special athletic ability on him, and that really isn't the case. But they'll overlook other things, thinking that because of where he was raised and the resources that his family has, that they would not have him out there if there was any remote possibility of him injuring himself or having a life-threatening situation.
and as far as the NBA, hey, if you want to Giannis's brothers, you go get you a job, probably
Yeah.
with the Bucks.
Because he has a brother on the Bucks who I've not seen play 1 minute. But
I think his cousin just signed with him too.
Yeah, cousin.
If I had a different last name, I could have had a different career trajectory.
If it was Antetokounmpo, yes, you probably could have in Milwaukee.
Yeah, definitely in Milwaukee. But yeah, I really appreciate Kathy for coming on and speaking with us on that. We're going to be joined shortly by our great friend Earl Kitchens to talk a little HBCU football. And man, with training camp open up, we are on our way, guys. We are on our way. Yeah, go ahead, Chen.
It opened last week. Today was the last day for veterans for all the teams to come in. So, people who have teams are with their teams, and then you have the running backs who's sitting out there and can't find a job. So,
what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like it was in baseball. It's collusion. You just don't all of a sudden decide all these running backs are garbage. You can't tell me that Elliott can't help somebody in the backfield. You can't tell me Dalvin Cook can't help somebody. You can't tell me these things about these guys that are out there still looking for jobs. People were saying, but there's a truism to it too. Those guys don't have the longest careers. And it's seemingly once they get the fat contract, that's when they start blowing out these tires. The wear and tear that they got, they're being paid for past performance as opposed to future performance. And it's really a crapshoot with the running backs, older ones. So those cats.
I think Cook is maybe 28. I'm gonna look it up right quick.
My thing is with him, I still think I don't care where he is. And I guess it's the payday thing, because except for today, Barkley with the Giants signed a 1-year contract, and he had threatened to sit out. And
he signed today. He came.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him sit out and force the Giants' hands. Emmitt Smith sat out for the Cowboys their first 2 games 1 year, and they went 0-2. And guess who got paid?
Yeah.
Emmitt got his money. So I wanted to see some of these cats hold out and see what their team's fortunes would be. I don't think the Giants would do well without him in the backfield. The Vikings
is 27 years old.
Yeah, I mean I guess when you get out of school, you're 21, so you got 6 years, and then they think you're done. You're not even 30, and now you're looking at what am I going to do with the rest of my life? That kind of thing.
So, do you think as younger players think about coming into the league, do you think that they will want to not serve in those positions or play in those positions? Where they, everybody can't be the quarterback. So,
Right.
They just get in and get out. Since they have an expiration date stamped on their.
That is a great question, Trey.
It seems like nobody got paid. The couple of people that did get paid, I don't know if Henry did in Nashville with the tennis with the Titans, but Christian McCaffrey I mean, he's making money and he's been around a long time, and it seems like he's getting better with age. I mean, it may be genetics, whatever, but I don't think you could blanketly indict all the running backs.
Derrick Henry's contract this year is he'll make 10 million, 10.5 million.
And he'll say
he's got a bonus of five. His cap number is $16 million.
Okay.
This year. I mean, that's
their offense, because they don't have any great receivers. I saw a meme online the other day, had a picture of I think it's Anquan Bolden and Julio Jones, and it's like four great receivers, and he said Tennessee is where receivers go to die, where their careers go to die. And all those guys did not do squadoosh when they got to Nashville. And they're saying, and it's like, that's true. They don't have a great passing attack or passing game there. They rely heavily on Derrick Henry. He should get whatever he wants because he is their offense. They have a mediocre quarterback, mediocre at best. They missed on this cat from Liberty apparently because he's not even getting any reps, I don't think.
Right.
So
Malik Willis.
When you rely heavily on the run, like what I think it's Jacobs with the Raiders and Nick Chubb, these cats are saying, look, we don't have any chance. We don't have any options. We don't have any choice.
Yeah.
He's only been in the league like 4 years, and he's still great. And yet, people are holding on. They're giving all the money to the defensive linemen now for some reason. And it's like they're making a concerted effort. Okay, we can, we're not going to pay the backs. We're going to pay all our money to defensive players. Quarterbacks and defensive linemen get all the money.
Yeah, and we're joined by our great friend and guest, Earl Kitchen, the author of the great book that you got to have, Forgotten QBs, that chronicles the history of the black quarterback, the little-known history, information, and statistics about black quarterbacks in American college football. Earl, great book and important book. And welcome to the show, Earl. And you can get in on this conversation we're having right now.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Ricky. And good evening, Tim, and good evening, Tree. So good to see you all this evening. And the conversation that you're talking about with these guys and these salaries, Tim, you brought up a very valid point about the fact that these guys who are running backs, when they finally get the chance to renew their contracts, they don't have much life longevity beyond that. But it seems like, you made a valid point. The guys come in, like the quarterbacks come in out of college with no experience and get these multi-million-dollar contracts. A guy like Davin Cook and these other guys, they've given you time and service, and they barely can get a slice of bread almost. So it's interesting to see how this works in the NFL. And Tree, I would like to, comment on your comment of what you said about these guys needing to get in and get out. Maybe they need to just look at a 7-year career and get out if the NFL is going to start kind of playing them like this. You get 4 or 5 years, and then they're looking at the next young guy coming out of college. So it might be something they need to consider. And hopefully they can find ways to take care of their monies that they do make, because it goes away fast.
Hey, now I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Do we have these? We don't have a Jim Brown. We don't have a Barry Sanders. We don't have an O.J. Simpson. Do we have these elite kind of guys I'm talking about? Emmitt Smith, all-time leading rusher. Would these guys be struggling to get jobs today? You're going to tell me Barry Sanders couldn't get paid today?
I would say he would be able to get paid based on his performance. But I think in this day and time, I don't know if the teams are willing to put up the kind of money for running backs like they do maybe for quarterbacks, when you got a larger pool of players in the running back pool as opposed to a quarterback pool. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see what would happen if you did have that level of talent in the NFL playing running back. But it's kind of hard to say. I mean, these guys, these owners, they flirt around with these numbers, man, and who knows? Who knows?
The salary cap for NFL running backs in 2017 was $12 million. Now it's $10 million, and
Mm-hmm.
every other position
Mm-hmm.
has gone up about $4 million, and the quarterback position has gone up even higher than that in terms of what uh, the salary cap uh, uh, average is at this point. I'm trying to find
So
that
so so
score.
so Ricky, do you think the teams are now undervaluing or devaluing running backs now? Is that what's going on? They're
I,
undervaluing these guys.
yeah, and I kind of see that in the NBA with I do see that to a certain extent because I think you still got to run the football uh,
Absolutely.
in the National Football League. And then you look at the NBA and people talk about the 3-pointer, but you look at the Joker just led his team to a title 7-footer. Giannis led his team to a title 7-footer. Anthony Davis, 6'11", 7 feet, was big guys still have their place in the league, but I guess it's only a select few who were going to get. Embiid was the MVP last year. So to answer your question, yes, I think they're undervalued. Yeah. So that goes to it.
So they should be looking for a plan B after that certain period of time.
Yeah,
For
after
sure.
that first midway through their first contract, they should be already starting to think about what's next.
Well, the NFL is not for long. That's what it
Right.
stands for.
No, but I also don't. I also have a problem, or it feels not right to me that they are being undervalued. I mean, they're still contributing to the team if they're great players. So something about this pay scale, or if you're in this position, I mean, it's kind of typical at wherever you work, right? You got a certain position, you're going to get paid higher, but they're putting their bodies on the line.
And the thing gets me, these cats, only the people that rarely get guaranteed contracts outside of quarterbacks. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
you can sign a contract, but the only real money you're guaranteed to get is that bonus.
Yeah.
Whatever your salary is, they can cut you the next year,
Right.
irrespective of how the length of the contract. And I think that to me just is madness when you consider those guys take the most punishment of any sport,
Yep.
that they can be so, so disposable. These teams look at these guys as eminently expendable people, and we can always find somebody else.
Yeah.
But Tim, I know you were a great kicker back in the day. So what about the kickers?
That's even more so expendable. Right now, you got a bunch of kickers right now bagging groceries at Publix, waiting for somebody to get hurt because they don't pay kickers. They don't. I mean, well, they don't pay the run of the mill kickers. You got some guys who are like just superstars, and they don't. Then they make a couple of million, but then everybody else. This guy Crosby has been an outstanding kicker for Green Bay for forever, and they cut him this past year.
Yeah. Did he?
Because it was money. Money was involved. It's a cash. You can shake a tree and find a punter and a kicker, but the really exceptional ones, it's hard to find them.
And I think that's what we're talking about, Tim. Exceptional players.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Tree is talking about. The exceptional players. So, yep, they're a small pool of exceptional players, and that's why some of these guys are being undervalued. My other thought about that is, depending on the team, the franchise that you go to, and how they respect and treat you, is another thing that has to factor into what is going on in the NFL. Some teams seem to have a little bit more care for their players than others, and others they ship them out because they got the next guy coming in. So these guys coming out of college nowadays got to understand, if you're going to be an NFL player, as you say, not for long. Don't expect your tenure in the NFL to be like it once was. Get in, get out, get your money, stay healthy, and move on with your life, because again, it's not guaranteed. And like they say, well, what have you done for me lately? And the next guy is up. And I really felt that Le'Veon Bell should have never left Pittsburgh.
That
I'll never forgive them for that.
Prime example. And he
That
came out
is-
this past week and made a video and said, I made a huge mistake. I never should have left Pittsburgh. I never should have sat out. Because these
Yeah.
cats, these running backs who sit out, when they come back, they are never the same.
Yeah,
Yep.
that is not a winning formula. That is not a winning formula. Hey, Earl, we wanted to, with football right around the corner, we want to talk some HBCU football, which you are expert at, and in your years of covering HBCU athletics. But I want to start in FAMU Zoom football activities today. I love the way Coach Simmons handled that whole situation about, I don't know who got in there and did the rap video. I'm not going to play that video with all the
right.
commentary.
No, please don't.
But
This is all
yeah,
not my style. Let me say that.
yeah. I definitely
podcast.
but not that. But your thoughts on that whole situation and the way Coach Simmons stepped up, Earl?
The first thing I'll say is Coach Simmons showed class, a lot of integrity. I thought what he did to minimize the situation was outstanding. So I will give him major props for that. When I heard about the situation, the first thought I had was, who let them in the locker room? Because that's the crux of it. Whoever let them in the locker room to do that performance is going to have to pay a price. But I'm glad they kind of got wind of it, able to get a hold of it. They haven't totally nipped it in the bud, but he put his stamp on it, and he basically sent a message. This will not be tolerated, and I guarantee you things like that going forward, it's going to be harder to get into that field house now than it ever was. And whoever did it, I hope you didn't participate, but some folks are going to either be punished or sit out or whatever the thing is going to be for them to pay the price. It's going to be a price to be paid because a message has to be sent. That can't be tolerated, because if you tolerate it, it's going to happen again. Maybe not at FAMU, but somewhere else.
Yeah, I got to protect the brand. I think that, I'd heard that that particular rapper had performed at maybe their homecoming or something like that.
Exactly.
And so
he's taken the place, from what I understand. The rapper from Tallahassee once upon a time was T-Pain. T-Pain now lives in Atlanta. So this guy is kind of the new local talented rapper. He's known by the people, the students, the athletes, and whomever in Tallahassee. So he's known, and he's done some community things. I mean, I don't particularly give a lot of kudos for buying a lot of sneakers and giving them to kids to show your care for them. But he's done that, and he's come to some FAMU games and some very expensive SUVs, I guess, to show his clout. But it could have been a better situation if he had just done two things: gotten permission and kept it clean. Those two things, this thing would be blowing up with so many likes and so many people seeing it that it would have taken him to a whole nother level. But now you got kind of the smudge, and now what happens?
I don't know. I still think, because I went and I looked at the videos, I'm thinking that it's still going to perhaps help his career. Maybe not to the level that, you're talking about. I think it'll still help him, because I would have never known about him. I would have never gone to watch a video had I not heard about this story.
Well, you know what I thought about, Tree? I thought about the fact that had this been something that had been approved and clean, every time the team gets ready to come out of the chute, to come on the field, it goes up on the video board, man, and you get the crowd, you get everybody hyped up and ready for a football game. That won't happen this year. That's not going to happen. That's not going to be. It won't get on the video board.
Well,
And it could have.
For that, fam's still gonna be hyped up if they home, because the 100's gonna be there.
Well, that's true.
The 100's gonna always have them ready.
That's true. That's true.
But
That's true.
I think that the AD, she her decision, she had to look at how coach handled it, and it was like they had probably a all hands on deck meeting Monday and read them all the riot act, especially those who participated in the video. People are wondering how they got in the locker room. The kids knew the rapper. And maybe the person the custodial person knows the rapper, and they said, "Come on in with the cameras." You got kids say, "Let's be in the music video." They say, "Sure," and not really understand. Well, none of those kids said, "Let me check out those lyrics first."
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
That's
said,
cool. We're in a rap video.
You're 18, 19. Yeah, you're not.
We're hyping up the school.
Yeah.
It's a teachable moment, but nonetheless, it is a very bad look for FAM, and they got this is something that's going to reverberate rather, leading up to their first game of the season. I think it's in Miami against Jackson State in the Orange Boston Classic, or is it Orlando?
It's in Miami.
Miami.
It's in Miami.
Okay.
But Tim,
they got to deal with that.
It's all good because this has happened so far out. I mean, it wasn't like it happened the week before the game. It's a month before the first game. So, it will resonate a little bit and reverberate a little bit, but not as if it just happened. So by the time they get to that first game, now that Coach Simmons has probably laid down the law, now that everybody knows the next time somebody wants to come in the field house, do you have permission?
Because actually what has stood out to me was the way FAM responded. We shutting everything down.
Everything.
So we figure this out. Okay, we got to figure it out. Okay, now we can go back to it. And Coach Simmons' statement was really powerful. I mean, that stood out to me. But man, FAM versus Jackson State, Miami, that's going to be a season opener. I know if Dion was there, we have 40, 50,000. Will we still get that?
No. You're probably not going to get that. You may get 30,000, 35,000, but Dion was a factor that probably caused some more people to come to the game. That won't be the case this year. But from being a biased alumnus of FAMU, it don't matter. Yeah. Jackson State, come on to Miami. We owe you guys. Come on down. The weather's fine. The water's fine. Come on. And the family is no longer at Jackson State. So now you got to play some real football now. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think Coach Simmons is going to have the team ready to go. And we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a great game because FAMU has already been picked to finish first in their division of the SWAC. And Southern is being picked to finish first in the other division of the SWAC. So FAMU comes out to shoot with the game against Jackson State and then against South Florida in the first 2 weekends of the month of September. So we got our work cut out for us. But HBCU football is growing in popularity. It's growing in popularity from high school students wanting to go to black colleges, not just for sports, but just students in general. And if we can continue to keep this momentum going for our schools and making them special, that those of us who graduated from these HBCUs feel it's going to be a better day, and we can hope that the visibility continues. So I'm looking forward to the game and looking forward to a great season from all the HBCU schools, both at the D1 and the D2 levels.
This coming up with this ruling by the Supreme Court on affirmative action, where they will have set-asides for students. Granted, people seem like they'll always make room for athletes. But do you think that you're going to see an influx of maybe more athletes to HBCUs who probably wouldn't go to these larger schools?
Well, Tim, I don't know if it'll be a larger influx. I think the key word to all of that is the quality of the players that will come to the HBCUs, because HBCUs cannot facilitate all the black athletes. So the thing that has always been questioned by the coaches at HBCUs is whether or not they can get what they call the blue chippers, the 4 and 5 star athletes. We can get more black athletes coming, but the quality of that athlete is the key to it. And that's going to be something that is going to pay off in dividends if we can start getting better quality of athletes to come to the HBCUs, because we can get them there, but they may not be the quality. And they're not, I remember Coach Billy Joe used to talk about the fact that it was very difficult to get 4 and 5 star guys to come to FAMU. FAMU's pedigree is great. The brand is great, but It's hard to compete against the Alabama or the guys in the SEC or the Big Ten when you've got facilities, when you've got stadiums, when you've got everything, and you're still struggling to keep yours at a level. So the quality of athletes, if we can get better quality of the athletes, yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you asked that same question, Tim, when Dion became a head coach. So, would you see more influx of players coming? I don't know if there was an influx then, but it drew a lot of attention for HBCUs. And so,
And it
but I,
did look for taste for like different sports. I think Howard got a couple of star basketball players that they wouldn't have normally gotten. I think maybe somebody's in Tennessee as well, in Nashville.
Yeah,
Tennessee
he
State.
transferred
Mhm.
Masterpiece son.
Yeah, I mean, you got these people who kept sending their kids to play ball at these HBCUs, and it was a fad, and we'll see how the fad goes.
This phenomenon is not something new. We've been having top-notch guys transferred to HBCUs going way back. I mean, the most prolific passer in school history at FAMU, Patrick Bonner, was at Temple for 3 years before he came to FAMU, and he isn't known for being the quarterback at Temple. He's known for being the mad bomber at Florida A&M with the Rack Boys. So Jay Walker left Long Beach State and went to Howard. So we've had them to come, but I think when you had a coach like Dion helping to making the spotlight or the stage bigger, it brings more attention to it. And I think the attention, as Tree has said, the attention is going to grow, and we can only take that growth and make it better. And I think the Celebration Bowl is one of the things that helps to bring the brand and make it better for those student athletes who may have not thought about going to HBCU, but see the value in going to an opportunity like that.
Yeah. Hey, Earl. First of all, Vicky Lamb Grant says, "Go Virginia State, Norfolk State, and Winston-Salem State University." She must be a CIAA sister. You're missing Virginia Union, but that's all right.
No, she's not.
This she says, this is a good question for you, Earl. The NIL is playing a part of the equation now. What is your thoughts on the NIL, and how does it impact the HBCU athletic programs? That's
I think the NIL is of value if you are one of the athletes who can obtain one of those agreements. It's not going to be for everybody. It's not for everybody, even at the PWI Power 5 levels. It's not everybody's getting an NIL deal. So it helps some. It's not going to help all, and it just depends on who you have and what kind of marketability they provide to the school. And no disrespect to anybody in Division II, Norfolk State, Winston-Salem State, CIAA, SIAC, all got some phenomenal football players, and they all deserve recognition. And if they get, whether you're in football or some other sport, if you can get an NIL deal, great. I would say make the most of it, because those contracts may be short-lived, and you may not be around very long. If you don't have a good year, they may not renew your contract. So it has its value, but then again, everybody won't be getting one. So make the best of it.
and are some athletes getting NIL deals even before they get to college?
They are. And that's another amazing thing, that some of these athletes are getting these contracts because they see the potential in them. So, you look at potential, and the potential is good if an athlete is showing you that they have all kinds of athletic prowess and skills. So, yeah, it's not going to harm you, because you're basically rolling the dice to see if people are going to buy that merchandise with that person's name, image, or likeness on it. There's no guarantees, but, if you can parlay it into some significant dollars for you, all well and good. So this is just another nuance to college athletics in the 21st century. And, I guess this was the way to keep from giving everybody those stipends that everybody was talking about.
Right.
No, go
Now
ahead,
it's
Tim.
legal.
Go ahead.
So no, I just said now it's legal. NIL. Now it's legal. You know, you're not keeping it on the table. You're just getting it
Hey,
right there straight out.
man,
Yeah.
this hour has just jetted by. Earl, first of all, we got to mention quarter five back, and again, I'm going to mention the forgotten quarterbacks. But I want to ask this last thing because I'm not going to talk about Deion Sanders all year when we talk about HBCU football. So I want to get my stuff on Deion out tonight. And with my last thing about him, how will he be missed uh, throughout the the spectrum of HBCU football?
I'll say this about Deion Sanders, and Deion Sanders is a one-man master marketeer. That would be the way I would summarize who Deion Sanders is. So, in some respects, he will be missed because he brought attention, he brought people to the table, he brought visibility, he brought a lot of things to HBCUs that were not there before. And I don't think there is anyone like a Deion Sanders that can come to a black college that can bring those type of marketing things that he brought to Jackson State and to the SWAC. So, from that perspective, he will be missed. And that will be the biggest thing I think we'll be missing from a Dion. But now that we have attention brought to the black college football and other sports, we have to find ways to market it. These conference commissioners have to find ways to better brand and market uh, their conferences, and the colleges have to do a better job of hiring people who can help them with marketing. As a former marketing director at FAMU, it's a challenge because the administrations doesn't always value the person who may know how to make money for them, and when they don't value that person, they
You
they
got some,
they they,
you
they,
got
they
some
feel
amens
blamed.
over here.
Tree, you raising your hand like amen? Is that what
Yes.
that
Amen.
We in church.
So
College presidents, HBCUs are trash when it comes to marketing and public relations for their universities and colleges. Absolutely clueless, don't know what they're doing. All they're doing is trying to cheese up to these other alums who think about the rest of the school. People know your school more so
your
about your
athletics.
athletic department than they do about anything else. I know nothing about the theater department at the University of Alabama, but I know about their football team. Penn
Yep.
State has a great meteorological school. I know about that because I'm a weather geek, but it's all about Penn State football.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
those things are your billboard. Your athletic teams, when they do well, they are your billboard. They're your
People
brand.
give, and people give. Well, Tim, I'm not sure how you feel.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just crazy because these guys are just so
It's such a
highbrow
broad
and
statement.
just
They're
academic.
all trash. They're all trash. I was
They
like,
are all of them. They don't have a clue about about what it takes to market. I mean, SC. Why do you think Southern Cal and UCLA are being geographically challenged by going to the Big Ten in the Midwest, and they're sitting out there almost in Hawaii because of it's about the money and the brand, and the Pac-10, whatever it is now, does not give them that same cachet. They're going where the
they
money
trust.
is.
They don't have to know marketing. They just have to trust the people that they hire, right, Earl?
True that.
I would agree with that.
I love Vicky's comments.
Yeah, they're the front
Talking about
porch of the university.
athletics are the front porch of the university. We all know the Notre Dame fight song. I mean,
Right?
here, Michigan's down, the victories, all
Yeah.
that. But Tree, I wanted to get Tree on this because she really kind of she gave you a big
I'm gonna hold back.
What is your experiences taught you in that regard, Tree?
I mean, I was over marketing at lots of different institutions, and I think that it's so subjective for people. People want to market to what they like without looking at the research and what the data shows them. So, it's like maybe someone will say, well, I like that picture. Why? He's cute. I've had people say that. Well, that's maybe not your demographic.
Right.
That person is cute. That's not a reason to put him on the cover of your catalog. And a stock image is that. So, things like that. I just think that everybody wants to weigh in marketing. Everybody's got an opinion about it. You have to have a thick skin, I always say, when you're in marketing, because everybody
Thinks they can do your job.
well, they just have an
Thank you.
opinion. Okay. They either want the job, they think they know.
Yep.
Some people have great ideas, but you also have to have money for
Yep.
that as well.
Yep.
So that
So
money helps too, to be able to market. So
Right.
Hey guys, to our viewers out there, the book is The Forgotten QBs by Earl Kitchens. The little known history, information, and statistics about black quarterbacks in American college football. And Earl, the book is great. How can people get the book and talk to us about quarter five back and the BIP Awards before we get out of here?
So the website is Quarter Five Back. That's quarter PHI, not FIPHI. Quarter Five Back is, and the reason this town is like that is because it's a fraternity. All these guys who are black quarterbacks, they make up a big fraternity. So it's quarter5back.com. You can go to the website and order the book. Our email address is quarter5back@yahoo.com. The Built Memorial Trophy is our annual award, the first time ever that a national award is being presented to the top quarterback from an HBCU and the top black quarterback at the high school level, named after Oliver Bip Joyce, who was a quarterback at Florida A&M, who died tragically while he was playing under Jake Gaither in 1958. We presented our first award this past year to Shadur Sanders from Jackson State and to Prentice Air Nolan from Langston Hughes High School in Fairburn, Georgia. He led his team to a 15-0 record, threw for 4,000 yards. But get this, the guy who finished second was a ninth grader, and he threw for 4,100 yards. So we are recognizing these guys. Our watch list is out. We'll be putting it out again. But last year we had over 400 guys in the high school ranks who were black quarterbacks that had made our watch list. So we're just trying to do what we've been asked to do from the powers on high and make our legacy and our mission for legacy of keeping the black quarterbacks a part of what this football thing is about in America and make sure that they're never forgotten.
And one more thing, I love what you said. We had you on at the end of last year. We were talking about Patrick Mahomes and the dawning of the black quarterback in the NFL, and you say there are more on the way.
There are many more on the way. There are many more going into the college ranks. And I'm just happy to see that we have this many black quarterbacks at the high school level who are performing at such high levels. When we did our final survey of who was going to be on the list for the candidates to win the award, we had 16 guys in high school that threw for over 3,000 yards last year. 16. And a couple of them I've been in touch with. One young man, he's at Oregon State. His name is Aiden Childs. He was a great quarterback out there on the West Coast. He's already out at Oregon State. Another young man who was a phenomenal quarterback, his name was Marcel Reed. He's at Texas A&M. So there are a lot of fine quarterbacks out there, and we're just glad that we can put our platform out there so that they won't ever be forgotten.
Yeah, and by the way, Marcel Reed is our friend Rod Reed's son, the
That is
former
correct.
coach at Tennessee State University. Earl, thank you so much for checking in with us tonight. I want to thank my lovely wife, Dr. Rebecca Motley Hampton, for filling us in on the situation with Bronny James. Thank my co-host, Tree McDougal and Tim Turner. We'll see you guys here next week, and we'll be talking to you throughout the season, Earl.
Absolutely.
All right. Be kind, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.